Mr. Depp, I'd like to now turn to your relationship with Miss Heard. Can you please tell the jury how you met Miss Heard?
2000, in around 2008, Hunter Thompson and I were going through some of his manuscripts of his books that have been published, and then I found this manuscript in one of his boxes, and it was called The Rum Diary, and I had heard about it, and I knew it was what they called his long-lost novel, in fact, the only novel he ever wrote. And I showed it to him, and Hunter was shocked. Oh my God, that's where it is, you know. And so he said, read me some. So I started reading this to him, and he said, this is a movie, you know. We must produce this together. And, you know, he got all excited about the idea of doing that. So we went right into it, and we started to set up meetings to get money, financing to develop the project. And we finally ended up getting the money to develop the project and to make the film. Hunter, from his own dilemmas in his life, committed suicide, but I, having had long talks with him, I knew every angle of the book, but I knew every angle of the film that he wanted, which was going to be a bit different than the book. And Bruce Robinson, who was a great writer-director, directed a film called With Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising, was the one director that Hunter and I talked about. And so I went to Bruce, who was a friend of mine, and I ripped him out of retirement because he never wanted to direct another film again. I pulled him out of retirement after 27 years, and he agreed to write the screenplay and direct the film. And we proceeded. During the auditioning process, Bruce was, before that, Hunter had very specific ideas of what these characters should be. Bruce had been auditioning girls or women for the role of Chenault in the film, and there were this sort of the starlets that were up and coming, or there were some that were well known and things of that nature. But you know, one of the things that Hunter was very against was stunt casting. That is to say, put a bunch of very famous people in a movie and let them go, and then hope for the money in the end. So Bruce had asked me. He said he had been auditioning this one particular actress named Amber Heard. He said that he'd auditioned her 5 times, and he was...
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So in this episode, we're looking at some of the WTFs in the sensational trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Here he was asked, just tell us about how you met her. And it takes him over 4 minutes just to mention her or mention her name for the first time. Instead of just saying, we met while making a movie, he goes into this huge backstory where he sort of puffs up his relationship with a famous writer, and also name drops this movie and that movie and the next. And it's interesting that nobody actually interrupts him to say, can we keep this, like specific to the question? When did you meet her? Give the date, give the circumstances in a single sentence. Now, what's quite well known in true crime is the giving of superfluous information. In other words, saying a lot more than is necessary is often a sign of being, so when you are not being specific, where you are sort of, giving all sorts of other information, certain details that aren't necessary, it is sometimes a sign of deception, and it's sometimes a sign of being, to some extent, disingenuous. And so one wonders what is happening here. And also, was he not coached to answer some of these questions? Was he not asked, or not coached, but just told, this is the question, and how you could go about answering it is this or that? It just is quite interesting how he's allowed to go on and on and on. So now that he's gotten to the subject at hand, Amber Heard, what does he say about it? What does he say about how they met? Let's listen in.
He wasn't sure about her capabilities as an actress with regard to the film and the character and taking direction and that sort of thing. So he asked me if I would read with her for the film, and I had already met a number of actresses and things, and so what I said to Mr. Robinson is, I said, Bruce, I don't. If you've auditioned her 5 times, you've seen the best and the worst, I suppose. So me putting her, this girl, in an uncomfortable situation, saying, "Hey, all right, let's read this," I think it's a far better idea that we just meet so that I can see how she behaves, see how she reacts, because that's really all it is: reaction, behavior. And you don't have to push anything else, So they made an appointment. She came to my office. I took one look at her, and I thought, yeah, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants. That's the one. I thought, yeah, she could definitely kill me. That's what Hunter wants. And so we spoke, and she was sweet as pie, pleasant, again, intelligent, literate, very good taste. And I felt like what I felt and what I told Bruce was, look, when you put someone in a situation that they're obviously going to feel under pressure, it's not the best way to really know what they're capable of. And I made suggestions such as, and which I ended up making to Ms. Heard. I made suggestions of films that might give her some insight into what we were looking for in terms of the film, which is to say, I gave her films like To Have and Have Not, and things of that nature, because I wanted to. There was something very important that I felt she needed to know about stillness, as opposed to, going broad or acting a little too much. So I felt like I could be a bit of a traffic cop in that sense, so that because if we could connect, then it could work as long as there was truth in her eyes, and as long as there was truth coming out of her dialogue. Then it's all in the editing. So I felt that I could help her with that idea of stillness, and so that's when I first met Miss Heard.
So a couple of brief observations here. He really doesn't say much about her. He seems to be talking more about the film process and almost flattering his own artistic genius. There's very little description about what she says, what experiences they have together. It is very much his story, and she's kind of being given a role in his story, almost like an actress. It's not really two people meeting. In fact, he sees, his first impression of her is seeing her, and then seeing her as almost like the spitting image of this character, and that seems to be what evokes something in him, right? That seems to be what does it. I do think that there is something flattering in the idea that he chooses her and to be in a movie and is sort of responsible for her getting a break, and she must feel grateful for that, but also perhaps something more, respect for the actor, and also gratitude, and also there might have been chemistry as well. Something that I think stands out in this particular, not just really this moment of testimony, but in a lot of it, is just how staggered and erratic and slow and not smooth it is. And you can tell the difference here between someone who's acting, who's got a script to convey that kind of performance, and someone who's on trial, who are really counting their words, and they don't really have a script in the regular sense. In a weird way, one wonders, why don't you have a script? Couldn't you have written a script for yourself? But in a weird way, you sort of get to see the sober Johnny Depp trying to convey something and doing it in a very slow, measured, dull way. And because it's so slow, and because there's such a disconnect between this Johnny Depp and the Johnny Depp, the colourful, vibrant actor that we see in certain roles, eloquent as well, here he just seems so slowed down, so limited. And isn't that a strange thing to behold? Anyway, let's go on to the next question.
How would you describe your interactions with Miss Heard when you worked together on The Rum Diary?
Initially, mostly very, very, very few interactions. I remember there was a time I wasn't working that day, but I was producing, one of the producers of the film, and it was a scene from the book that was a scene where Ms. Heard's character was in a nightclub, and were amongst the locals, and she's very drunk, and everybody's very drunk, and she ends up dancing with a few of the local, like one of the local guys and stuff, and then the other local guys start to sort of close in on her. In the book and in the screenplay, as it was written, there was a requirement for nudity for the part, and I was on set the day that they were shooting that, and as I was watching the crowd coming in on her, I realized, you know what? Because I would check on Ms. Heard and say, "Are you all right? Are you sure you're okay?" because this is, she was like, no, I'm fine, fine, fine. But I realized that with the crowd surging in towards her, that we wouldn't have to do the nudity, because if she took her shirt off and she had a red bra on and a skirt, then if she had a red bra in her hand, when the crowd surged in on her, all she had to do was lift the red bra up out of the crowd, and there's no nudity, but it's certainly implied.
So do you remember what the question was? What were your interactions on set? And so in that long monologue, he's basically talking about this moment where he really takes care of her, where he isn't seem to acknowledge that she's uncomfortable with the scene, but he seems to take protective care of her. He does say that when he asked her if she wanted to do the scene, she seemed okay with it. But anyway, how he answers that question is he basically says how he kind of emerges as the hero. He has her not remove her clothing in this particular scene, right? I don't know if you guys know, but the actress Amber Heard was actually the female star in the movie Aquaman, where she plays a sort of a princess and has sort of reddish hair. And I must say, I thought she acted that very well and sort of very memorably as well. I didn't really realize until it was mentioned, until I read it, that this Amber Heard is that actress. Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. If you guys enjoyed this analysis, I'll do another one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.